Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I am Nurfarihin Nisha binti Fauzi alongside with my teammates Nurul Hafeena and Wan Anis Sufiah. For the language camp, our team got this topic, language and nation building. So we're going to present about the role and importance of language in nation building. I will be explaining about the importance of language in nation building, while Wan Anis Sufiah and Nurul Hafeena will be explaining about the role of language in nation building. What is meant by language? Well, according to Sapir L. 1921, language is a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. So the question here is, what is meant by language is a purely human and non-instinctive method. It means that language is human, not animals. Only humans possess language. That makes us much different than animals. Well, animals do have a communication system like us, but it is not a well-developed system like human, because we have language. With language, it makes us humans. So with language, it creates a barrier between human and animals. So according to Brown HD 1987, language is the institution whereby humans communicate and interact with each other by means of habitually used oral or auditory arbitrary symbols. So here, oral or auditory arbitrary symbol. It means that language is primarily a speech produced by oral auditory symbols. For example, I am the speaker, you're listening to me, I'm speaking language, and you are the receiver of my language. You receive the meaning of it. I produces sound for you to listen, for you to receive it. So it means that language is speech, which means sounds. So you receive it. So I hope it's clear. So the third one is Noam Chomsky 1957. Language is a set of finite or infinite sentences, each finite in length and constructed out of a finite set of elements. This means that each sentence has a structure. The human brain are able to construct different sentences. For example, even a baby who knows nothing, babies are able to come out with different set of sentences, even though they never heard of it earlier. So language, we can conclude that language means a communication system and a sound system, and also a set of sentences. So how many languages are there in this world? You can see here 6,500 languages in this whole world, and the highest number of speakers is for Mandarin Chinese, 1 billion speakers. So we have this much speakers only for Mandarin Chinese. So there's a lot more speakers in this world, speakers of language. So why is language important? The importance of language in nation building. First, this is a quote that catch my attention. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. Nelson Mandela. This is a very, a catchy quote. I hope you feel the same too, because what this means, it means that if you speak to me in a language that I understand, like if you speak to me in Malay, of course, it goes to my head. I understand it. I process it. I I reply to you in the same language as you speak. But if you speak to me in, for example, my Kedahan like dialect, you speak to me, it goes to my heart. I appreciate it, even though you are not Kedahan and you try to speak Kedah. I appreciate it. It goes to my heart. So it's a very I love this quote. So the first, the importance of language in nation building. Of course, language is the medium of communication. It is to inform people around us what we feel, what we desire, and question or understand the world around us. What does it mean by that? For example, since it is the medium of communication, well, would you talk to a small child with the same words that you speak in a business meeting? No, it is entirely different. So we communicate with people differently. I communicate with Puan Umaza or Puan Aisyah differently. I communicate with my friends differently. So it means that language makes us able to communicate with each other, form bonds, networks, or language. With language, it separates humans from other animal species. Like earlier, language is a medium of communication. Next, since it's a medium of communication, words, gestures, and tone of voice in a multitude situation. We can also use language in like gestures. I can say shut up with just pointing my hand like this, and you still understand it because the meaning is conveyed to you in gestures like this, right? So what we can understand from this medium of communication is that communication drives our lives and better ourselves. We are able to communicate with each other. We are able to understand each other. Even with the ability to communicate with each other, misunderstandings happen. So even though the meaning is conveyed, we are still able to misunderstood each other, right? So the next importance of language in nation building is language is a means of expression and allows a person to participate in community activities. For example, language gives a capacity for conveying ideas about a great variety of things, and states of emotion can be conveyed in an easy and simple way, not just in conveying ideas and emotion, but we can also express our feelings, moods, ideas, information, experiences through language. The next one is language and culture. Language functions as one of the most obvious markers of culture. It means that language represents our culture. For example, if I speak Kedahan dialect, I am a Kedahan. If you speak Kelantanese, then you are Kelantan. Your culture is Kelantan. So our culture is embedded in our language. It represents us, who we are. The next one is linguistic diversity. It becomes symbolic of cultural diversity. For example, in Malaysia, we have a lot of dialects. Like I said, Kedahan, Kelantanese, Perakian, and some more. It represents who you are, your culture, where you are from. People know who you are just by the way you speak your language. And facts about language are handed down through cultural transmission. For example, since I am Kedahan, then the facts about the language that I speak, it's from my mother, and then to me, and then soon to my daughter, my grandchildren, and whatnot. It's a transmission. I receive it, and I will give it to my generation. So it continues. So we have to learn our language. It's important to learn our language, our mother tongue, because if not, we might lose it. It represents us. So let's say that I immigrate to like London. If I stop speaking the language, my mother tongue, then I might lose my own identity. I might lose who I really am. I'm no longer Malaysian. I'm just an immigrant who immigrates to London, who knows nothing about Malay language. I might lose that culture in me. So it's important to learn my own language, to understand it, and of course it's important to learn other people's language besides ours, but we must not forget our mother tongue. The next one is language and identity. Well, language is the faithful mirror of the society. For example, if you listen to a person speaking their language, you can see through them. You can know about their culture, beliefs, mode of dressing, marriage, and every other social linguistic information about the society, the person's society. Next is language is also supposed to be seen as the symbol of nation, just as the flag. A national language is a clear indication of the identity of the country. It means that other than flags, our jalur bergemilang, you also have bahasa Melayu to represent our country. A national language is a clear indication that of the identity of the country. It's part of a nation and person's heritage. Let's say, for example, our identity as Malaysians is defined by bahasa Melayu, right? So let's say, if Malays, the Chinese, the Indians, we do not speak bahasa Melayu, then we do not have the identity of a Malaysian. We lose that identity, which means with the identity, wherever we go, if we speak Malay, people will know we are Malaysian. That is our identity because we speak bahasa Melayu and it is our national language. It represents our country other than jalur gemilang. So it is very important for us to be proud to speak our national language. Don't just go around being proud of other people's language, like other language like English, Spanish, French. Just because you learn a foreign language doesn't make you good. You forgot your own roots. So how would people look at you? The last one, the importance of language in nation building is language can be a source of power, social mobility, and opportunities. So I want you to think about this top sign, the red one. You can see it at the road. Yeah, think about it. That one little bit of language have so much power because it imposes the law. You have got to listen to the language. You have got to follow it, or else you will be paying for the fine, right? That little bit of language has so much power to us. So it means that language can be a source of power. Next, language shines in your career and business. For example, business nowadays, they are looking for people who can speak a lot of language because they want to market their business in the whole world. So the employees have got to speak a lot of foreign language so that they wouldn't have like a language problem when they represent their company when they go outside of Malaysia. So next, language is important for you to become more employable. Like employers are requiring a specific language nowadays. Like recently, we have issues with companies who just wants to hire Chinese speakers only. So it has become a very huge issue in Malaysia recently, because not a lot of people can speak Chinese, obviously, because it's not our mother tongue. It's not our national language. For Chinese speakers, yes, of course it's good for them, since they can speak the language, they can get the work, they can get the job. But as for Malays and Indians who do not speak Chinese as the first language, it will be hard for them to even get a job anywhere. So it's huge. It's a very sensitive issue to debate. For me, I think companies should hire employees who can speak English. That's the most important part, not just Chinese. Chinese is important, but not everyone speaks Chinese, right? So the third one, opportunities to travel. It is very important, because if you speak English only, if you go to French or Spanish or anywhere who doesn't use English so much, you will face a lot of problems, like a lot. So even though you speak a fluent English, if you go to countries like that, people will ignore you. Like say I'm a tourist, I can speak English so well, and I go to French and I want to ask where's the toilet, they would ignore me. Let's say I speak French too. Of course, they will be very delighted that a foreigner can speak their language. They will appreciate us more, they will show us where's the toilet. So not just that, with learning language, we can learn about the culture too. So that is all for the importance of language in nation building. Now let's listen to my other two teammates, Wan Anis Sufiah and Nurul Hafeena.
My name is Wan Anis Sufiah, and I'm going to present on the role of English language on nation building in economic dimension. The concept of nation is a frequently debated one, but a good starting point would be to describe it as a human collectivity defining itself as historically constituted or desired, where that notion makes some claim to autonomy. While many of the components of national identity, such as religion, language, and symbols, may be older than history, the notion of the nation emerged in the 18th century in Western Europe, where specifically ethnically defined communities developed around already existing kingdoms or cultures to form nation-states. Key to a conception of nation is the notion of identity as a source of symbols and legitimacy for mobilization toward the task of nation building. Whether one is predisposed to a primordial or constructivist explanatory framework or identity formation, each approach shares the view that culture, language, and religion have historically been the central components of national identity. The survival of a nation and the success of its drive towards nation-state status are predicted upon the existence of a language that its people can speak and, more importantly, read and write. While it is important to be able to communicate effectively within the modern nation-state, even more crucial to the manifestation of identity is the demarcation and boundary function which language can play. The role of English language in nation building is to enable people to access knowledge and information found in a great number of sources throughout the world, since the English language is a major vehicle through which knowledge and information are transmitted. The next role is the flow of foreign investments into a country like Malaysia depends not only on the relatively low cost of labor, but also on their capability to communicate in English commensurate with the position or levels of employment they occupy. Another role of English language in nation building is to help to obtain a job and will generally be more productive on the job. A person who can speak English language and local language can communicate better with others. A person who can speak more than 2 languages tends to have easier experience to deal with others. Next, proficient in the local language will be more efficient in finding higher quality goods and services and at lower prices. Having social and information networks are confined to their immigrant or linguistic enclave, rather than having a wider range. These benefits provide economic and social incentives for immigrants to learn the host country's language. The fifth role of English language in nation building is the role of English is further enhanced these days as Malaysia is committed to the idea of serving as a regional center or hub for educational excellence, which would attract foreign students to come and study here because of quality and affordability. Last but not least, the costs involved in an immigrant's learning a new language will be influenced by several factors, including the person's age, exposure to the language, and the distance between the person's mother tongue and the language of the destination, among other factors. That's all for academic dimension. Thank you.
My name is Nurul Hafeena binti Ahmad Sharifuddin, and I am here to deliver a presentation on the role of language in nation building from socio-cultural context. Malaysia is a multilingual and multicultural community. Consequently, different languages abound. There are many ethnic groups' culture in Malaysia, and it is Bahasa Melayu that function as a national language. Such groups can function effectively as one through bahasa. The argument for the use of an indigenous language to serve in the domain of a national language has remained controversial in Malaysia. This is why the role of bahasa cannot be relegated to the background. This language serves as a unifying and integrative factor that brings people together and usher in the spirit of oneness and togetherness. If bahasa is accorded its role, unity and peace will be tremendously restored. The role of language in this domain should be recognized, especially in the present Malaysian society, where the country faces a lot of security challenges and other issues that border on the country. Moreover, language is an indispensable tool for national unity, integration, and global communication. Socially, English performs an integral role. For one to socialize effectively, a mastery of the English is recommended. Communication is a two-way process that requires input from both the speaker and the listener or addressee. For the speaker's message to be understood, the speaker should choose words that best convey his or her message. On the other hand, the listener is expected to grasp the intended ideas or message of the speaker and then respond accordingly through feedback. Socialization gives a way for development. An individual who socializes has the wherewithal to communicate with people from the international communities. Consequently, the nation is empowered and developed through its communication with other countries. Therefore, English is the key to socialization between individuals and among industries of the world. In addition, language plays a significant role in almost all spheres of human endeavor, be it in education, politics, the judiciary, administration, economics, religion, government, business, and legislation. It plays a pivotal role in the attainment of sustainable developmental goals. Language should be allowed to perform its role most importantly in nation building. For instance, the roadmap 2013 to 2025 is an indication of the nation's determination to bring about substantial improvement in our students' proficiency in the English language. The roadmap was produced to address a fundamental problem faced by our young people today. They have to cope with a rapidly changing and increasingly globalized world and job market, which requires them to communicate effectively in English at a much higher level than before. They need to be aware of the wider world in which they are growing up, and they need sufficient support to enable them to achieve the necessary levels of English proficiency, which will help in economic empowerment. It is the avenue to sustainable development. In looking at the domain of education, David and Lim, 2011, discussed the ramifications of the use of a mixed code for social interactions between young people of different ethnicities in Malaysia. One of the original aspects of the study was the extension of the nation of code switching to include alternating between different varieties of English. Standard English for classroom interaction, where the teacher is a participant, and Malaysian English, which tend to be more code mixed for peer-to-peer informal interaction. David and Lim also reaffirmed that code switching and the use of the Malaysian English has a variety in a widespread practiced by Malaysians, whether at home, with friends, at school, or at the workshop, or at the workplace. This is despite the fact that all have gone through the process of being taught the standard variety in classrooms. Malaysian youth, being multilingual, have a wide range of languages in their verbal repertoire. Based on this, there is a tendency of youth of Malay origin to use Malay among themselves, and the youth of Chinese descent and brought up to use their home language or dialect to use Cantonese or any other dialects with their Chinese friends outside the classroom. However, there are instances where Malaysian youth, regardless of their ethnicity and linguistic powers, use a mixture of languages as a lingua franca among themselves, but this is often confined to less formal settings like outside the classroom. In their midst of interaction, code switching between English to Malay or vice versa, and mixing their conversation with Chinese or Tamil words seems prevalent. In the social domain, it appears that the Indian community in Malaysia is gradually accepting the fact that their ethnic language is not necessary to maintain their actual identities. The fact that one can still preserve one's identity to make clear through other cultural markers of identity. Although the younger generation of Tamils have not abandoned their ethnic language, the use of the language has declined with age. For instance, the language of communication among Tamils belonging to the 18 to 29 age group is no longer standalone Tamil but a mixture of Tamil with other linguistic codes that are in their verbal repertoire. As with the Malayalis and Punjabi communities in Malaysia, there are signs that English will eventually be more dominant than Tamil among the younger generation, who are better educated and have better socio-economic status compared to the older generation. In fact, the use of English in the home domain is increasingly dominant among urban Indians as they realize the economic value of the language and encourage their children to master it. Other than that, the relationship between language and social identity has long been a concern to both social, linguistic, and socio-political ideology researchers. Past studies have revealed that language, other than used as a tool to exchange communication and information, is a means of nation building. In this sense, language is viewed as an instrument of cultural integration and assimilation, also a vehicle to exposing state ideology. Although there are many definitions that reflect the notion of social identity, the one that best fits is to take individual history into account when discussing social reality. To be specific, history provides us with story and unveil our identity, as these stories tell us who we are, where we originate from, and where we ought to go. History defines a direction that helps us build the essence of group identity from where we belong to. Furthermore, Social identities can be best explained in relation to groups or categories, such as ethnic or religious groups, which allow people to create a sense of unity with others in groups or outgroups and provide mutual reinforcement during interactions. For this reason, in some countries, indicators to characterize social identities such as language, culture, race, religion, gender, political affiliation, color, and geographical region are employed. However, the abstract, complex, and the often constituted issue of who we are or where we belong in the context of a cross-cultural society continue to prevail within the society. Thank you. That is all from us. I hope you have a great day.